Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 14 of the Paws podcast. And we are joined with none other than FIU royalty. That is David Drucker. How are you doing, David?
Oh, man, I'm good. It's good to be with you guys here. Kevin, Jake, the Paws Up podcast. Man, FIU royalty, maybe once upon a time, Jake. But
No, you got shouted out, Mr. David. I don't know if you saw. We got a comment from Danny Denise. None other than Mr. Danny Denise saying, "Oh, this is FIU royalty."
Oh, wow. Pike
Yeah,
Danny.
big shoes to fill. Oh, here we go. All right. So, David, you're doing quite a bit these days. You're working for the engineering center, I believe, as let me make sure I get this right, a communications manager. And on top of that, you're a staff writer for FIU News. So you're doing quite a bit at FIU. So I got to ask, just how's the college treating you, David?
It's great, man. It's great. I started at the College of Engineering about a year ago, and well, now I've been as a student and now as an employee at FIU for 10 years. So the College of Engineering is fantastic. There is like a lot of really cool research that happens over there in engineering and computing. Maybe we can get into it a little bit later. But I still write for FIU News. I did move over from external relations to the College of Engineering about a year ago, but things are good, man. Can't complain. Just putting my paws up professionally. You know what they say.
So you, if I'm not mistaken, you graduated in the class of 2018, I want to say, which was the same year that I joined. So what do you remember about the state of the college during that time, including, the campus, the residencies, and the dining options? How has the campus evolved?
In just 5 years, guys, the college has changed so much. Like, I think the first thing that stands out is if you look across the street of 8th Street, there's like 4 high-rise condos now that weren't there when I was a student just 5 years ago. And, that new rec center opened up in my very last year at FIU. And I wish I'd opened up sooner. Like, that was amazing, But yeah, I mean, FIU is just building every day. It seems to double in size every like 5 years.
Yeah.
And when you're an alum, it's just cool because you come back and you're constantly finding new things. Parkview, no, they call it Tamiami Hall.
Yeah,
that got built right on top of where I tailgated with my friends. So it's kind of crazy how FIU has evolved. It's really cool.
So David, this is an athletics podcast. We go into all athletics. So what really stood out to you during that time when it came to FIU athletics?
Yes. Well, Kevin, I was a student in the era of Butch Davis.
Yeah.
Also, Ron Turner.
Good shout out. Good shout out.
A wee bit less notably, but Butch came in my senior year, and it was really hype. I mean, probably the highest profile coach we've had, at least coming in to FIU. And I don't know if you guys remember or were following the team back then. I mean, Jake, you said it was your first year, and Kevin, I believe you are beginning your FIU journey next year, right?
In a couple months.
Cool. Congrats. So there was a lot of hype around that, and he actually went 9-4 that year and won our first bowl game in over 10 years. So, like, being a senior, graduating that year, it kind of felt like the sky was the limit for FIU football. FIU basketball was, getting off the ground. I think Jeremy Ballard came actually right after I left as a student. And FIU baseball definitely had its moments. I remember we beat UM, I think, a couple of times in 2018. And our neighbors there in Coral Gables, and it was a good time. It was a good time to be an FIU fan in 2018.
Yeah. Now, before we continue, I did have a question. It's sort of become an internal debate within FIU. Do you think FIU is considered a soccer school these days?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
When you look at what sport people get up for the most at FIU, it's soccer. And when you look at what sport we excel at the most, it's soccer. And my question is, like, imagine, guys, if they expanded the bleachers of that stadium. Like, how you see it when they do bring in the additional bleachers for a big game, that they fill out that place. So imagine like what that place would look like if there was like 3 times the seating. It would be amazing. So FIU definitely is a soccer school. I just hope that we become a football school and a basketball school as well, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. You kind of just hope they become a powerhouse type of school, because with Conference USA kind of getting weaker and weaker as the years go on, FIU's, I guess, winning window begins to open. That window to win now begins to open. I mean, you see it next year with football. FIU has to be one of the better teams in Conference USA. You have FAU gone, UTSA gone, then you have basketball, baseball, same situations there. And I mean, baseball's on, I believe, on an 8-game winning streak. So maybe by the end of the year, we're talking about baseball as the baseball team as maybe the top team in FIU.
Yeah, FIU should be winning more Division I conference championships than we ever have in our history, if you think about it, right?
Yeah.
Like, we had the men's soccer team finally breaking through and getting that conference title, first one in a few years, and winning the American, of everything. And then football, I mean, I'm curious what you guys' thoughts are, but to me, the conference looks a lot weaker. I mean, you have a lot of the real heavyweights gone. UTSA is gone. UAB is gone. FAU a few years ago, they're gone. And so, like, the question is, why can't FIU, if we're building upon our success last year, reach that level where we're playing the conference championship game? If not this year, then the next year, To me, that's probably what the roadmap looks like for Scott Carr and Mike McIntyre. So I don't see why not. And in basketball, I was reading some news that Jeremy Ballard had been extended. I don't know if that was official, but
let's save that for Newsbreak. Spoiler alert for Newsbreak. But a lot of news as of late with FIU, and I completely agree, David, that regardless of sport, this college has the pieces, whether it be a new coaching staff, fresh recruiting across the board, and an influx of fans wanting to support the team. Those 3 key ingredients can lead to a pretty damn good program, regardless of the sport here at FIU.
And not only that, I mean, the recruiting this year was incredible. You flipped the guy from Auburn to come to FIU, Kewan Jenkins, who could probably turn out to be the best quarterback in FIU history. That's what Jake and I have been saying. Many people who we brought on the podcast have been saying it. He could be the best QB that FIU will ever have. You brought in some good offensive line recruitments. I mean, FIU got really good, and I think they'll be one of those top dogs. When we've seen Mike McIntyre in previous stops with San Jose and Colorado, we've seen that he has that first year, which is kind of like let's see how the team looks this year. Then you have that bridge year, and then you have the year where they're competing. FIU is kind of going into a bridge year, but man, with how Conference USA is looking, you kind of maybe assume let's skip that bridge year and let's go right into the competing, because FIU could probably make a bowl game this year if you look at it.
Yeah. And I wonder, Kevin, you bring up that stat about Mike McIntyre, right? Like in his first year, usually it's a rebuilding year. But I wonder if you guys have also kind of made this like assumption that I have, which is, okay, and let's see, where was he before? He was in San Jose State, right?
Yeah.
And then he's at Colorado, right?
Yeah.
He won maybe 1 or 2 games combined in his first year at both schools, right?
Yeah.
Well, FIU, we won 4 games last year.
Yeah.
And then you look at both those programs, I'm pretty sure they were both ranked within at least like 2 to 3 years.
Yeah.
What's that going to mean for FIU? Could we be ranked? Could we be a conference champion? Could we get up to that part of the ranking where we start to make some noise and people are like, oh, I don't know, FIU, dark horse, you know?
I think it's just as possible now as it maybe has ever been for this college. And obviously the football team is very young, right? But this is probably FIU's best chance in an unknown market, the Wild West of conferences, as I like to say, to take it, to grab it by the throat and make it theirs. And it's exciting, and we'll talk more about football in a bit. But David, I gotta say, it feels like we've had a discussion like this before. What was it? It was the Panther Personalities podcast, your former show where you got to interview people from all over FIU, including myself. So, talk about the experience you gained from doing that, and what did you take away from it?
Yeah, it was a great experience. This was an idea I had as an intern when I first got to FIU External Relations after graduating in 2018. You know, podcasts were becoming really popular. And so I was like, what if we had an FIU show where we interviewed people from all over FIU, like researchers, students, alumni, sports people. And we really built a show that was like an FIU show, but like for all of FIU, the whole community. And so, it was a really good experience, not just in, when I finally got to do the show and interview fine folks like you, Jake, but also like when just trying to get everything approved, learning how to handle a project, learning how to work and cooperate with people to get a greater goal done. Like that's the kind of stuff that, and doing it all for FIU. I mean, the school I went to, like that was a really cool experience. Yeah. So yeah. I definitely learned a lot, and I got to flex my Panther pride muscles, man. Like in the beginning, our intro of the show was the FIU Samba, which is my favorite song that the band plays.
Yeah.
And we got to just. We had some great guests on the show. Eddie Hondal we had on the show with his family to talk about how they were becoming fans at the very beginning of the football program. But we also got to interview these other amazing people that FIU has. Like there's a professor at FIU in the law school. His name is Professor Charles Jallow, and he serves on this body of experts who work for the UN. And they basically are the people that debate and come up with international law. So it's really cool, like the kind of mix of people you get at FIU and the specific expertise. It was a great experience.
What was the craziest story you heard on your show?
Oh, wow. Well, we did have this expert. Her name was Dr. Eileen Marty. And she traveled all over the world. I'm pretty sure she went to the jungle to inspect animals for a rare disease. And so that was pretty crazy. Eddie Hondal did some pretty crazy stuff. Not all of them made it to the podcast. But does anything take the cake? Not sure if I can think of anything right now. I will say the Jake episode was one I definitely remember. Yeah.
Oh yeah, of course. Top 10, top 5. Let's keep it above us, David.
Oh yeah, of course. A couple of young sportsmen just cutting it up, as Stugat says.
Yeah. David, if given the opportunity to continue it, would you do it again?
Panther personalities?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, I think that FIU is just like a well of really interesting people. Not only because we're a great research university. Paws up, that's right. Paws up. One of the things
before I did.
Well, we're a Panther family. We have to do Paws up at the same time, Jake. One of the things it was interesting, like right before I left FIU External Relations, was we were trying to figure out if you had to teach people how to do Paws up, what would you show them? Is it like you curl all 5 fingers like this, and you get the hand up here right next to your head. Like, what would be the definitive way to do paws up?
Huh.
You
know what I
have any like parameters you'd set?
I think it would be, so you would have to go to a basketball game and wait until FIU shoots some free throws when they do the pause up, and then you study the crowd and see what everybody's doing. But especially when you see Scott Carr do it, you have to copy his exact finger pattern for the perfect pause up consistency. And
I
voila,
100%
there
agree.
you go.
I mean, I think you guys both have it down. I mean, I think it's important though to curl the fingers though, because if you kind of do this, it's like you're just giving someone a high five.
It's a high five.
Yeah.
You got to go.
That reminds me, Kevin. If you don't already know the FIU Samba, get ready.
I've heard it. I've heard it at the football games.
You're gonna hear it to the point where you can start humming it as you go to sleep. That's how much you're gonna hear it.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's addictive. It's addictive. But yeah,
let's get into football then.
Oh, yeah,
all right.
sure.
Yeah. So, David, I know you got to have some amazing football stories during your time. So, just throw them on us. What are some good stories?
Okay, so guys, it all started back in 2018. So there's this pretty well-known sports blog page nowadays called Barstool FIU. But back in 2018, FIU didn't have one. But me and my friend who used to do Panther Now, Jake Spiewak, we were wondering, hey, is there another way to talk about FIU sports, now that we don't work for Panther Now anymore, formerly the Beacon back then. And so we were thinking, we've heard of this group Barstool, maybe we start our own FIU Barstool page. And that's exactly what we did. And so what was the first game of that season? It was 2017, actually. FIU versus UCF. So it's an away game. Me and, my buddy Jake and a couple of my other friends, we go up to Orlando. And I am just in the mood. This is the first year of Butch Davis, okay? So as an FIU fan, you feel empowered. So I'm like, I just feel like talking smack, So I log on to Twitter and I'm like, FIU's best alum in the NFL is T.Y. Hilton. UCF's like, what's your best alum? Blake Bortles. And if you think about it,
that's a good question.
Yeah. So the UCF fans were outraged, but I got my troll in. I was okay. And so what was the score of the half? It was something like 30-7. And like at that point, I was like, boys, we're hungry. We got to get a bite. So, not great fanship, but we left a little early. And the UCF fans were just he just pulled up that tweet and hammered me again and again and again. And sure enough, UCF, that was the first victory of UCF's 20-game winning streak or something. So I like to think that we single-handedly outraged UCF enough to go on to make history. So
that was when they beat that was when they made it to the Peach Bowl, I want to say.
Yeah, they beat Auburn, I think, that year.
I do remember that. Damn, that's right. I forgot about the whole FIU Barstool, and they're still around. It's still active. But
so
there was a point
you made the account and just gave it to someone else, or?
It was my buddy and I. We basically both ran the account. He was the guy who ran it, and then I just made content for it. Dave Portnoy, who's the head of Barstool, he used to have this segment called One Bite Pizza, and he would, he still does it. He's on episode.
I'm pretty sure I've seen his TikTok, and he does it there.
Yeah, he's going strong. So he would take this one bite of a pizza and then review it just then and there. So I kind of made a mock segment called One Bite Croqueta. So I would go to every food croqueta place across the street, La Ventanita, and review croquetas. And so that was we started it.
So did David see that, and he was like, hey, this is fire. We need to bring you on board.
No. I'm pretty sure he didn't answer the email, but it's okay. Maybe it was for the best, It was for the best. When you're in college, like you could think of wanting to do one thing for the rest of your life and picture yourself doing that. But then, like, you know, when you go out and start working, you can find something totally different that catches your eye. And that's kind of what happened to me.
So who has the account now?
I don't know. It's kind of a mystery, to be honest. It's been a mystery for the last like 3 or 4 years, ever since we handed it off.
Wow.
You guys sold, is it like selling the account, or you just give it to someone?
No, it's not sold. It's I think Barstool works with someone to do it. It's all a bit mysterious. I think that whoever took over from us wanted to preserve the identity of whoever was running the account. You know, that way it adds a little spice to it. You know, like
Kevin, we need to get the Barstool on a show and do a face reveal.
Face reveal,
expose the truth to the world.
I'm down. Let's do it.
So, David, you were there for Ron Turner. Again, great shout out. You were there for Butch Davis, and now you're witnessing Mike McIntyre. What do you think about this coaching carousel of FIU?
Well, I don't know if it's really a carousel in the classic term, you know, in that we change coaches every like year or two. But it's the coaching merry-go-round, you might say, has been good. It's been pretty solid. I mean, like Butch, yeah, we had that kind of, you know, couple bad seasons at the end. I mean, really bad. But as an FIU fan who had Ron Turner before, it was kind of like you were just really grateful for those 3 years up front where we went to 3 bowl games in a row, and you know, we beat the other team in Coral Gables, which I'm sure we might talk about later. But so you know, the Butch years, all in all, it really was a roller coaster. The Butch years. I mean, talk about the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. You know. But the Mike McIntyre era, I mean, when we launched, you know, when we announced Mike McIntyre, I was surprised, to be honest. I'm not a hardcore college football fan in that I follow all the Power 5 and Group of 5 teams, so I wasn't really familiar with him before. But once you did a little research, it's like, okay, this guy is a turnaround GOAT. And I remember the first press conference that he did, and the guy just oozes positivity. I mean, like you guys had him on the podcast. Like, he's just willing to do every single media interview, you know, and he really keeps it positive. So it was you can just tell the players rallied around him too, and he was exactly what we needed at this moment. So now I'm a big fan of the hire, and I'm really curious to see where he takes it from here.
Yeah, Jake, who are the other options for that coaching job?
So there was a there were 2 or 3 options. Most of them were I know a couple were some South Florida high schools that they wanted to come up and then coach FIU. The other, I believe, was someone from Bethune-Cookman. Excuse me for not remembering his name, but there were a lot of options, and I'm in the same boat as David, where I was looking at who was available for FIU to take over the coaching, and Mike McIntyre was not on my radar, right? But I can say that with all positivity that it was a great hire. And again, for most teams, 4-8 might not be like, oh, you know, big deal. But for FIU, it was a massive deal because the roller coaster of Butch Davis had a super high ramp in the beginning, and then it crash landed massively in the end. And to see a program that I don't think could have been more down in the dumps, to the point where people were asking for the football team to go to FCS and maybe they'll have a shot there. To see them jump up to 4 wins, some of them very convincing wins, by the way. And now you bring in an amazing recruiting class. You're getting the name of FIU football out in the community of South Florida, which is a massive football community, right? To have those things happen, it's a breath of fresh air. And I mean, what else can I say except it's been lights out?
Lights out! Lights out!
Jake, the way you do this is impressive, man. You know,
I forget. I completely forget that we have to do it once every show, and then when we say lights out, I'm like, huh? And then like, oh, lights out. All right. It's your requirement for
the requirement.
The show. All right, David.
I just want to piggyback off of what you said, Jake, with the community and stuff. If FIU becomes a winner this year, guys, FIU is going to get some good attention. Because UM isn't all that good. We saw it last year under Cristobal. And that's really about it. I mean, unless you think of another college down here in South Florida that's better. If FIU somehow gets to a bowl game and maybe even the Conference USA Championship, FIU is going to pop off in terms of social media. Fans coming to the games. We may see sellouts at the Cage every night. And it's going to be, I mean, man, the opportunity that FIU has this season with the team they have, because Jake, I've told you this many times. I believe this is a better team than what they had last season. Yeah. Although they lost on Rivaldo and they lost Tyrese Chambers, they still have a really damn good team with what recruits they brought and transfers that they brought. I like almost every quarterback on the depth chart. Flex Joseph is back for another year. He looked great last season, probably the best offensive player. Everyone is healthy at this moment in time. You got to feel really, really good about where FIU football is at this point.
Yeah. David, I want to quickly ask you, when you were a student, did you go to any football games that were sold out, like to the brim?
Never. There was never a game like that when I was a student from 2014 and 2018. I mean, I had 3 years of Ron Turner in the first year of Butch Davis. So, no. In fact, as far as I'm aware, I think it only happened really during the Cristobal era, and I think maybe like the first game or so of the inaugural season,
the Strock era.
Yeah, but Kevin, I totally agree with your point that people would hop on the FIU bandwagon hard, and I've been talking about this for years. FIU is one of the biggest state universities in the country and one of the best. If you look at the top 5 state universities, public universities in the United States, you have Ohio State, you have UCF, you have Arizona State, and then you've got, who's that? FIU, like right in there in terms of enrollment. Yeah. In terms of research, we are right there with the big boys. And the only thing holding us back is our age. The fact that we haven't had time to compound, years and generations of fans that, took their sons and daughters to the game and and that kind of compound growth that happens with college football fan bases. But you know what? We do live in Miami. And if there isn't a more bandwagon city in all of the United States, you let me know. Because the thing about FIU is that it is such a fun environment for the people who go there and know. You guys know. But everyone else doesn't know that FIU is the State University of Miami and has more students who are from Miami than any other university in South Florida by a mile, by double. It's not even close. So once we do start winning, you're going to see the bandwagon grow really fast. We just need that spark. We need to have, and I hate to say it, our own version of UCF, where we win a bunch of games in a row and all of a sudden we have all the spotlight. Once that happens, man, the bandwagon's going to fill up really quickly. And Paws Up Podcast is just going to have 1,000 listeners episode in, episode out. I'm not even kidding.
Yeah.
I love that.
We for full disclosure, our viewership for that Billy Gill episode was lights out. I'm not going to play it again, but it was lights out.
Lights out! Lights out!
He looks so
all right. Thank you, Kevin. What was I saying? Oh yeah, our viewership for that Billy Gill episode was fire. But I agree. When the day we bring back Scott Carr after winning 5 straight bowl games and we just beat Alabama in the national championship, it's going to be lit.
Do you think you'll go Hollywood after that?
Oh, how could you not, dude? They're paying big bucks for podcasts these days, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So before you guys, we need you for the compound growth. By the way, did you know that FIU almost beat Alabama 12 years ago?
I actually did see highlights of that. It was like a 41-7 or something. Not the biggest blowout against a team that Alabama has played. I'll just, there have been much bigger blowouts than
was
that.
it here? Was it
Yeah,
here
it
or in
was
Alabama?
it was
Alabama.
Yeah.
Oh, that game was here. That probably would have been a sellout.
Well, yeah. I mean, Alabama is Alabama. But this isn't an Alabama podcast, yo.
Yeah, you're right. All right,
would you say,
David? Go ahead, Jake. It was my turn, but go ahead.
No. Look.
I put your paw up before speaking, please.
Okay. David, would you say that overall the coaching staff, roster, and overall vibe of the football program is the best as you've ever seen it?
Ooh, no. And I'm just gonna say that to be cautious because for me, like, unless we're counting that one magical night on November 23rd in 2019 where
I was there.
Oh, Jake. You were a student.
Wait, were you not there as well?
I was there. I was in the press box.
Oh, right. Yeah. Kevin, that was the Miami game.
I know.
Okay.
No, I'll tell you what though. In 2018, after we won the Bahamas Bowl, we were feeling really good as a fan base because that was the year we went 9-4. It was our all-time most winning record. We won a great bowl game versus Toledo, and it kind of felt like under FIU, like we had James Morgan, first year James Morgan, Captain Morgan, who was one of the best passers in our whole conference, and it really felt like we were going to be like conference heavyweights. Honestly, like to look at what that expectation was like just 3 or 4 years ago, it feels like such a long time ago, but it's true. Like the FIU offense was explosive and it looked like we were going to maybe win the whole thing next year. So I would say that was probably the best I ever felt about the team and during like my time since coming here in 2014. Now is the best I've felt about it in like 4 years though, like ever since, the Butch's 4th year. So that was the COVID year, I think 2020. I mean, this is the most optimistic I think I've ever been about FIU since COVID, and it's not even close. Especially the quarterbacks, like, isn't it interesting, guys, that like you kind of look at the quarterback room, at least for me, and you got Grayson James, Hayden Carlson, and then you've got what's his name from Texas? Help me out here.
I know who you're talking about.
No, he's not from Texas. No,
I know there's Kewan Jenkins who's new.
Yeah, there's him, but then
there's one more. There's one more.
And anyway, I think his name's maybe Amari.
Brooks. Is it Amari Brooks?
I don't think so.
I know the first name's Amari.
Yeah.
Come on, Jake. I know you're looking for that.
Anyway, it feels like the FIU quarterback competition. Like, there's a lot of talent in that room, and at least one of those guys is going to turn out to be a stud because we've recruited the position really well.
And not only that, you feel like each guy could go out there and start on a daily basis for you or on a week-to-week basis. Because Grayson James last year when he came in for Hayden Carlson, he looked overall pretty damn good. And we saw Hayden Carlson that last game of the year where they lost against Middle Tennessee. That was a really good game. Unfortunately, just really bad decisions towards the end. But besides that, he played very well. And then you have Amari. And if you have the last
Amari Jones, it was Amari Jones. Yeah.
Yes.
Amari Jones, who still hasn't played a game yet. Maybe we could see him play a game this year if the quarterback room goes through injuries. And then you have Kewan Jenkins. And this is actually a really good question I want to ask you. How soon will it be until the fans are asking for Kewan Jenkins to start? Because you kind of got to tell yourself Grayson James will probably be the starter week 1, unless Hayden Carlson has an amazing spring. If that's the case, and those guys starts to struggle, fans are going to be calling for Kewan Jenkins game by game, and you may see it in the crowd, in the cage. They're going to be calling for that guy because this guy's sealing it. I said it. It could be best quarterback to ever play in FIU.
Yeah, there's going to be someone clamoring for his name the second that Grayson James throws an incomplete pass.
Exactly.
As far as like legitimate, like, demanding for him to play, I think that a lot of FIU fans who have been here over the last 5 years, it might surprise you, they might be a little cautious about wanting to throw him in right away. I'll give you an example. We had this guy, Stone Norden. He was a 3-star quarterback.
Stone Norden.
Yeah. He was a 3-star quarterback from Tennessee, and he had a lot of potential. I mean, he was being hyped up as being, the guy before Kiwan, who was the most talented FIU prospect quarterback. And then there was a lot of pressure to get him in, I think, as a redshirt freshman, just to see what he can do. I'm pretty sure this was 2020, because in his first start against Liberty, he threw a beautiful touchdown to Rivaldo Fairweather, and it looked like he might have the goods, but he just wasn't ready. I mean, I think it was a little bit before his time. He was throwing incomplete passes left and right. He eventually transferred. So it's, it's hard to say when, what I'm answering the question, when should he play? And to me, not until his 3rd year. But I think that FIU fans will legitimately want to start him by his after the first bad game that Grayson James or Hayden Carlson has, because that's how fans are,
Exactly.
Especially FIU fans. We're repressed.
Yeah. David, just before we go into news break, I know you're a massive advocate on social media for students to attend these games. Now, or FIU football games, under the direction of Scott Carr and Mike McIntyre, that are taking this program, do you think they're going to, are they doing a good job right now with what they've got to bring fans to the stadium? And what do you think they should do?
They're doing a fantastic job. They're doing all of the things that, as an FIU fan, over the last 5-10 years, you've been begging to see. They've done a great job, and I don't know if it's probably a whole team at FIU behind the scenes making this happen, but tailgates really seem to have bounced back at FIU. I mean, they're letting people tailgate in Tamiami Park, which is legendary grounds for a lot of FIU fans from the T.Y. Hilton era. They have that beautiful space they've set up now at Tamiami Hall, right in front of it, for the Panther Walk and the tailgating. That seems great. And then, the thing about FIU students becoming FIU football fans is it's not like a lot of other universities where you grow up near the university or a fan of the university's football team and American football. It is pounded into your blood. You know what a first down is. You know what an offsides is. You know to make noise when your team is on defense and to be quiet when your team is on offense. Well, a lot of FIU fans don't know that growing up. A lot of them aren't fans of American football growing up, and they're a fan of another team, and the culture kind of you gotta hold FIU fans' hand when they're first getting along. You really gotta bring them along. But that's exactly what Scott Carr is doing. He gets it. He gets that right from the tailgate. You have a big banner that says "Student Entrance" for the student section. And you just lead the students right in there. And I mean, guys, I don't know if you saw that student section this last year, but it looks like a legitimate Division I student section. Because
it was popping off, yeah. And the festivities right outside Tamiami Hall pregame, super sick. You have the cheerleaders, you have Rory, you have the band just walking over, and then you bring out the players heading to the game. It's a cool experience, not to mention a bunch of giveaways, a bunch of free stuff, tailgating in the giant lot behind Tamiami. Tailgating. Tailgating is such I think it's an underrated part of the overall game day experience. It's just chilling back, drinking some drinks, eating some food, and just chilling with the homies. And the fact that FIU now welcomes that is super sick. And probably one of the smartest moves, no joke, that I think they've done in years was bringing back tailgating.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, it was brilliantly brought back, in my opinion. And like the student section part thing to me, like you can't overlook, because when I was a student, it was totally ambiguous where the student section was. You had no idea. There was maybe one sign that said student section, and it was kind of small. So as a student, you're just gonna sit wherever you like, wherever it feels comfortable. But then, like, you kind of miss out on that atmosphere of having that whole section get rowdy, and so it was, they've done a great job getting students to the game, honestly. Yeah. And I think that now just what needs to happen is gotta win games. They win games, they'll keep coming back.
Yep. And by the way, we're on uniform watch now because those Vice jerseys, those are going to be heat. I already know.
Yeah.
All righty. I think it's time for a break. An FIU Athletics news break, talking about all things FIU Athletics and some FIU news in general. So let's get into it. First thing first, former FIU football tight end Jonnu Smith has been traded earlier today from the New England Patriots to the Atlanta Falcons in exchange for a 7th-round pick. Despite signing a 4-year, $50 million deal recently, Smith now finds himself battling for the starting tight end position in Atlanta, along with, of course, Kyle Pitts, while New England saves some money in cap space. FIU football has announced that their Thursday night game against the Liberty Flames, which was originally scheduled for September 28th, has been moved back to Saturday, September 23rd. That game against Liberty will also be FIU's homecoming game, and the Panthers will now have a week off after that before heading to New Mexico State on Wednesday, October 4th. Moving on to men's basketball, earlier today, Liam Rooney, and was also backed up by Eric Henry, reported that head coach Jeremy Ballard has had his contract extended with FIU until 2026. Initially, Ballard's contract was set to expire in April, but a move must have been made to keep Ballard at FIU for at least 3 more years. And finally, former guest of the show, Billy Gill, has announced via the Dan Le Batard show that not only will he be attending the FIU Miami baseball game on Wednesday, but he will also be throwing out the first pitch. But I mean, don't take it from me. I mean, just
I had a late situation come up. I don't think that I'm going to be able to cover Puerto Rico and the DR on Wednesday night.
I'll take your credential.
Really,
I'll take it.
Bummed about. And Dan, this is an exclusive that I just found out about, and this doesn't have to do with the World Baseball Classic. I was invited to throw out a first pitch at the FIU UM game on Wednesday night.
Let's go.
So I think I'm going to be doing that on Wednesday night.
From
if you
the
guys
mound,
want to go. I'm worried about it, Dan.
He's got a little bit of elbow tendonitis.
I'm struggling right now. I either need Tommy John surgery or I have tennis elbow. Something's going on with my elbow. We talked about this on Mystery Crate. I've been wearing a shooter sleeve. I don't have it on right now, but I've been wearing one of those copper fit compression things. Stugat saw it on Friday when we were recording what was going on. So I have an elbow thing going on, and I scratched my eye on Monday. I have an eye doctor appointment. That's why I stepped out a little while ago. I'm just telling you. I'm playing hurt.
Not a lot of excuses.
No, not a lot of excuses.
Cornea?
I think so. I'm going to check.
Very dangerous. Very painful.
I'm getting it checked. I'm powering through. I'm getting it checked out at 2:00. Hopefully, they don't give me an eye patch. And if they do, I'm telling you right now, that sucker is coming off.
Billy,
I'm not throwing it out like a
really
pirate.
High,
I'm not throwing it out
Billy.
like a pirate. And by the way, on Friday, now that we're talking about baseball and all our things, Chris Cody and I will be calling the Marlins game on Friday. The Marlins spring training game on Friday. Yeah, we're going to lots of baseballs. Yeah, forget Tom Selleck. That's me, baby.
Shout out to the Dan Le Batard show with the Stugats. And there you go. That was your look at FIU news break.
Jake, like, what was the hand action? Like, were you calling someone for the bullpen or something? Or
that clip was a little bit longer than I expected. He started to go about Marlins baseball, and I was like, we just spent like an hour talking about Marlins baseball.
We love Marlins baseball
on the show.
We love Marlins baseball. All right.
Can I just say that besides for the obvious, like, if I can just make a takeaway from Jake's news break, besides for the obvious good news that Billy Gill is throwing out the first pitch, that's great for the culture.
Should go on Wednesday, by the way.
Huh?
You should go on Wednesday to the game.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. I'm going to I have to. I'm on campus that day.
Yeah.
And that Sun Blazer beer, I gotta try that.
I had that on my planner. Ask David if he's had the Sun Blazer Golden Ale. I was literally gonna ask that.
I haven't. I have long yearned for a Sun Blazer beer ever since they were released, and I just crave a glass mug to like pour beer in the side of, and just kind of like turn it and get a little foam at the top. It's just amazing. But anyway, Jonnu Smith, low key in like your 2-man fantasy football leagues, he's going to be a dark horse tight end. I'm telling you. Pick him up. Kyle Pitts been struggling a little bit, and you never know.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
The problem is who's throwing the ball to him. That's the issue that worries me.
You're right. It'll probably be it's going to be Desmond Ridder, I guess. Unless they're not going to sign Lamar, so we'll get into free agency at the end because we have to talk about some free agency stuff. But all right, Jake mentioned it. Coach Ballard got an extension until 2026. Now let's keep this in mind. He got to the Conference USA tournament. They were the favorite to win their first round matchup against La Tech. They lost the first time. Oh, look at that. Eric Hendricks is signing with the Chargers. Okay. No one cares. They beat LA Tech the first time. They lost the last matchup by 1 point in overtime, and now they lost again in overtime against La Tech. He once again has another losing season, correct, Jake? Only 13 wins it was. So they haven't had a winning season in a very, very long time. Jake and I both mentioned that I think it was time to move on from Coach Ballard, although he is one of the greatest human beings we've ever met, probably one of the best coaches in terms of personality-wise we've met at FIU. David, what are your thoughts on the extension, and do you agree or disagree with it? And then Jake and I will give our opinions.
Yeah, I want to see Coach Ballard stay and get a full season under his belt and win some games and win some games in the conference. Here's why. I saw him take over, and I agree with you guys. I'm a huge fan of his character, and he's also got what I think a program like FIU needs, which is that he is young and hungry and likes to be aggressive, and that's kind of what our kind of team and culture needs. He's willing to get out there in the community and get fans to the game, butts and seats. Like when I was a student, I actually covered men's basketball, and the coach at the time, he was not in the beginning of his career, and we were even worse than I think any low point that Jeremy Ballard had been at, and the attendance was dreadful. It was sad. Oh, when they would do the Paws up thing, I wanted to cry because there wasn't a single paw going up in the stand. I mean, so for me, like, you could say, all right, well, a lot of coaches would want FIU's job, surely some good coaches. For me, the thing that I just really want to see from Coach Ballard is I've seen what it looks like when he gets a complete team and gets it going. I know these last few years haven't gone his way, but I think it was his first year. He had Osasu Osagai, and he was the number one shot blocker in all NCAA. And he was coupled with this guard named Antonio Day, who went on to transfer to Fordham and then Coastal Carolina. And at the end of the year, they just got things rolling. Like they won the first game in conference competition. You guys know what happened then?
Jake, this is all you.
Oh, you know what? David surprised me. What happened?
COVID-19.
Oh.
COVID-19 happened right in the middle of the Conference USA tournament. It was almost like a meme. Right. You guys probably remember this, but like each tournament was like, yeah, we're going to cancel the rest of our tournament. And it's like, yeah, we're going to cancel the rest of our tournament too. And it was such like a heartbreaker because they were a really good team. And, I don't know. Maybe it's just, my personal like fondness for the guy and how much growth he's had in terms of filling up the FIU arena. But I want to give him at least another year or two just to try to get things going again. And maybe I'm being a little bit too much of like I'm afraid of what the alternative is. But because we do know, like in baseball, like sometimes, if you move on from the coach that you really love, but, isn't producing enough wins, it could really pay off. But I want to give Coach Ballard another year or two.
You just described Don Mattingly.
So I'll keep my opinions on Ballard brief. I already slammed Ballard a couple episodes ago.
We both did. We slammed him pretty bad.
After that loss to UTSA, it was senior night at home. That was I don't want to get into it again. That game.
It was bad.
I thought it was and we're going to talk about this lowest point of the highest point and lowest point of the season. That's an easy low. So that's an easy lowest point. But anyway, Ballard, cool guy. And yeah, he has had some seasons where outside sources have played his hand. But at the same time, just how many more years does a head coach like Jeremy Ballard need to at least produce, at the very least, a winning season? For the most part, we're not even asking him to go and win a conference championship like that. Just produce some solid wins, especially against non-conference opponents, to prove that you're the guy. And again, his last winning season, and again, I want to get this right. His last winning season came in 2018. And there have been coaches in other sports for FIU that didn't survive as long as Coach Ballard did, despite continuously achieving losing seasons. And it's not even just the coaching itself. It's the recruiting. It's the rest of the coaching staff, of course, the recruiting as well. That leads me to the question: why can a team like FAU achieve the success that they did this season, and a team like FIU couldn't match them in that, despite being in pretty much the same region with all the insane amount of talent that this city can produce for the basketball team? So do I personally agree with the 2026 extension? Not really. But I am willing to give him one more chance with the factor of having a completely healthy team, and especially a team with some absolutely undeniable talent that the basketball team has. There are some key players on that team to be excited for the future, right? And we'll go into that in a sec. But
that's kind of what I wanted to get to, Jake and
okay.
David. Would you guys say this past season that was the best team FIU? That's the best team that Jeremy Ballard has had in his FIU tenure?
I can't say.
I mean, for the past couple of years, I guess.
I mean, but you have the Conference USA Freshman of the Year. You have someone else who was put in it. Denver Jones, Mohamed Sanogo, who was an absolute stud. This probably was the best team they've had in a while. I mean, this is a really good team. It's a very young team, and that's kind of what I wanted to get to. I disagree with the extension. I'm kind of on the same boat as Jake, where he's had more than enough chances to do this. You probably had an excellent team this year, a very good team in my opinion. And during that middle stretch of the season, FIU beat UAB. They beat Charlotte, who was one of the best teams at the time when they beat them. They took FAU to overtime. I mean, they were playing some really good basketball. And then you go into that losing streak where you lose to the two worst teams in Conference USA. You lose in overtime to La Tech, which you could have beat. And you've lost some other games as well to Middle Tennessee, who you were beating, I believe, by like 14 at the half, and you lost. That's really like at this one, it's really inexcusable, that type of performance. And that's where I'm telling myself, if he would have won this conference, if he would have won round one of the tournament, my opinion would be completely different. It'd be, he had a tough regular season, but it's the tournament that matters. And Jeremy Ballard showed up and showed out in the tournament. He managed that team well, and he got them to the second round. And who cares if they lost to UNC in the second round? You got past the first round. Has Ballard ever done that? Gotten past the first round of the Conference USA tournament?
Yes, but
yes.
it was canceled after COVID.
No, well, I mean, he would have done it for a second time. So you kind of would have said maybe let's give him a 1-year extension.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I just feel like if let's put the Butch Davis example. Like he had a horrible 2020, but to me it was like we need to give him another chance in 2021 because stuff happens and you have one bad year. You never know. People sometimes it's at their lowest point that they feel more motivated than ever to bounce back. This is sports. We know that. And so like obviously it didn't work out. Then it was probably time for, Butch, to move on from Butch. But then like with Ballard, like you had this one really bad stretch at the end of the year. They just seemed like they were in a total funk. So I don't know. I maybe I just, we can agree, disagree, but I would I want him just to get one more year. And if not after a year, okay, fine. But, we'll see.
Yeah.
We're going to have to see anyway, boys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's time to reflect. As we mentioned, the basketball season came to an end. FIU fell to Louisiana Tech. Overall, how do we all feel about this season? And like, if you had to assign it a grade in FIU basketball lore, what would that be? I'll start. I'll give this season. I'll give it a C plus. A C plus. At the beginning of the season, it was maybe a low B, right? Middle of the season, hovering around a B, maybe a B plus. Things were looking good.
B plus.
At the end of the regular season, it crashed. It crashed down to like a B, back to a B minus, and then a loss in the tournament. Lowered it down to a C plus. There were some good moments. There were plenty of bad moments. I'm gonna land at a C plus. An okay season, but obviously the fans are yearning for something a lot better than that.
I'm gonna go with a D plus. I mean, just the losing streak at the end is kind of what put the cherry on the top for me. I would have said a C minus if it wasn't for that losing streak, especially losing to the worst two teams in Conference USA. If you had won those two games, you maybe would have had a shot at the 5th seed, and you would have had a bye in the tournament. Now, keep in mind, the first 5 teams get a bye in the tournament. FIU did not go for that. FIU had the talent to do it. They had Arturo Dean, who, as I mentioned, Conference USA Freshman of the Year. They had Deshaun Giddens, a great bench piece. Denver Jones, your leading scorer. Mohamed Sonogo, who I wouldn't be surprised if he goes into the transfer portal at this point with how well coaches talk about him. You have a complete team is what I saw. And I would go D plus because just they weren't able to reach their full potential, I believe is how I would put it. Now, we're going to talk about high and lowest point, but when you look at those games against UAB, the FAU game, the second FAU game, and here in the FIU, that is the team that I wish would have played at that same pace, that same consistency throughout the whole year. FIU did not do that. Now, the game that Jake won, UTSA, if they kept that going in that second half and done that against La Tech and Rice, maybe FIU is still in the tournament.
Yeah. I think, I think they definitely showed glimpses to where, like, I can't give them an F or a D because, like, if we're doing a report card here, right? If you come home with a D or an F, like, you're screwed, so, but it's definitely not an A or a B. The question is C or C plus. I think I would go C plus just because you had some players you could be excited about for the future. Mm-hmm. And honestly, man, the FAU loss to me at home, FAU is a great college basketball team, which is a sentence I never thought I would say in my life. But, like,
they're in the March Madness.
Yeah. Like, to me, almost beating FAU, I don't give them credit for. Like, that's your rival. You have to be able to stand up and beat your rival in any given game. That's what's special about FIU, FAU. So I give them a straight C, guys. I mean, listen, a C is a kind of grade that keeps you in school, right? So Coach Ballard, I still think one more year. But, obviously we're not that proud of it.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I wanted to get to. I said D plus, but that still doesn't mean there were positives throughout the season. Arturo Dean was
Yeah.
phenomenal. Denver Jones, Mohamed Sanogo, those three guys played excellent basketball. And then we saw kind of some of these freshmen step up towards the end of the year. And you have to say FIU probably will have a good recruiting season, or in this offseason they'll have some good recruiting. They'll bring in some good players. Now the question is who goes into the transfer portal, because they have some studs. I mean, Mohamed Sanogo is very young. I wouldn't doubt if he goes into the transfer portal, he's getting picked up by a really good team. Same goes with Denver Jones. I don't think Arturo Dean would go in the transfer portal, because if any of those two guys go, Arturo is the face of that team.
Guys, could we talk about the transfer portal? Like, what are your honest thoughts on the transfer portal?
It on the plus side, it can make some of the best stars in the college in the sport look like the best stars if they play for the best team available. But at the same time, it can also completely screw over players that want to go to a better team but don't get what they were looking for. It has some highs, it has some lows, but it's a system that's evolving before our very eyes. It's only going to get bigger and bigger and bigger, I think, as well, especially when you factor in NIL and other methods that students can get profit from playing. And it's going to make some teams look better and better, not just because they provide the best place to show off your talent, but also to get the biggest paycheck. And I hate to say it, but our rivals in Coral Gables are pretty damn good at that with the NIL already. They've already kind of mastered it. So I'll say that. Is it good? Is it bad? It depends on what your school is. For FIU, I would say it's okay.
I mean, when players leave the portal, and we saw this with football, we saw many players go off to the portal. Most notably Tyrese Chambers and Rivaldo Fairweather. Those guys got some pretty. I mean, you don't know what the NIL was for Chambers, but he probably got some good money in the portal. I mean, he had almost every single Conference USA team giving him an offer. And then he had some really good schools outside of that giving him an offer. For a second, I thought he was going to be going to Colorado, playing with Deion Sanders. That would have been an excellent fit for him. He goes to Maryland, which is also a very good school. He probably got a nice NIL. That's where the portal is positive. Now, for Rivaldo Fairweather, it was good, but he didn't get as many offers. I don't know if you noticed, Jake, but these guys post when they get offers. And you know this too, David.
Yeah.
Rivaldo Fairweather may have gotten less than 10 offers. Tyrese Chambers got at least 20, maybe a little bit less. But, I mean, you kind of just see there how that works. And then the transfer portal could really ruin a career. I mean, let's say Jake goes into the transfer portal. He had a pretty good year. He gets no offers. I mean,
where do I go from here? I'm in collegiate hell right now. I'm in collegiate limbo,
You're without a college. You're trying to go anywhere at this point, and maybe you set yourself up for failure if you go to a college.
I might be looking at the XFL or the USFL coming up, right?
It's not bad.
Yeah. By the way, I do want to say, Kevin, as you were talking about why you give FIU basketball a D plus, I was thinking back to the UTSA game, and I was doing research for it, and there was a statistic I saw that there were only 2 teams in Conference USA who averaged giving up more points per game than scoring points per game, otherwise known as a negative margin of points. And the only 2 teams were FIU and UTSA. And so then UTSA proceeded to beat FIU. So now that I just remember that statistic, I'm actually going to drop my grade from a C plus down to a C minus. That's a big drop, but I remember I just remember the shock of leaving that arena knowing what the hell just happened.
There was no post-game press conference too.
They usually do a good job at press conferences, not for that one. Moving on. Let's continue the party train of FIU basketball. The highest point and the lowest point of the season. I'll kick things off with the highest point, and I'm gonna say it was the game against Middle Tennessee on Pike Night on January 28th. a very solid home win. There were some players that balled off like Denver Jones, and it capped off the end of a 3-game winning streak. With
losing streak, right? Losing streak.
Yeah, it was right before the losing streak.
But you said it cap. Okay,
no. Actually, I take that back. It didn't cap off. It was the second to last game in a 4-game winning streak.
Okay.
Charlotte was the one after. But I think my hype for FIU basketball kind of peaked around there because the possibility of a winning season for FIU was starting to come into play. Now, the lowest point, it's a no-brainer. It's the UTSA game that I was talking about. It was a monstrosity, especially on senior night when solid crowd. They celebrated a couple of seniors on the team. They looked good in the first half. They could not blow it harder in the second half. And again, they lost to the worst team in basketball. And if you lose to the worst team in basketball, does that make you the worst team in the conference? Maybe.
Possibly.
Yeah. So I'm going to say highest point was Middle Tennessee Pike Night. Pike Night's pretty cool. I like the idea of Pike Night too.
That's a frat or something?
Huh?
Is that a frat?
Yeah. It was like they were celebrating frats and like just having a massive party before the game and after.
I was there.
And the lowest point was UTSA.
Were you at that game, Jake?
I was not.
So it was me.
But I did get to watch it.
Okay. So I'll go. My highest point will be the UAB game. Okay. I don't think you could have felt any better after that game. I mean, you beat the best team in Conference USA. You held the top scorer in Conference USA to like maybe 4 points, something way under his average. And then you're going into FAU where you feel pretty damn good after you beat the best team in college in Conference USA. I mean, you can't feel any better than that. I think that's where my peak hyped up. My FIU hype for basketball was at the highest. And then I guess I'll agree with you, Jake. I'll go UTSA was the lowest point of the season there. I mean, you can even argue that it was the Rice State game. I'm sorry, not Rice. La Tech, the overtime loss by 1, where it was just even worse.
What really stands out about that UTSA game, one last thing, is that like I want to say that there was a first of all it would have tied the most wins at home under Jeremy Ballard's tenure since his that 2018 season. It actually would have set a lot of records for FIU basketball were they to win that game, because again they would have been back at 500 with 2 games left, and it all came crashing down.
Don't know if you care, Jake, but Jameis Winston just re-signed with the Saints.
Okay. Okay.
I don't know, man. I mean, free agency. We love free agency.
They already got Derek Carr. I'm assuming Derek Carr is going to be starting. So
yeah, I mean he'll be the backup. Jameis.
All right, David. What's your call? The highest and lowest point.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with Kevin. I really like the win over UAB. UAB is such like a landmark program, for college basketball, and on the road it just felt great. And then I'm gonna give you a little bit of a wild card for the lowest point of the year. For me, it was not a conference game. It was versus Bryant's University. I think it's like the 4th game of the year, and we lost to the Bryant Bulldogs. Why was that? Why was that the lowest point of the year for me? Because when you lose to Bryant University, like it just, I think for me, it brought back like this feeling of like, okay, during football season, we beat Bryant in like this crazy thriller, right? And awesome. It felt so good, and it was like, okay, but we just beat an FCS team. Like, should we really be that happy? And some of us, I was in the crowd that's like, yeah, just party. We beat an FCS team. And then we lost, like, I think 73-0 to Western Kentucky, and like one of the worst defeats in modern college football history.
That was not lights out.
Not lights out. Not lights out.
Don't play the lights out.
No.
Don't play the club. So, like, when I saw, like, okay, we lost to Bryant University, I was kind of like, if we can't beat the Bulldogs, I don't know how far we're going to go this year. And sure, even the greatest teams in college basketball trip up a game or two, but like I was bummed. Especially because we just got smacked by North Carolina State University, and it was like, okay, it's going to be another year, kind of middle of the conference, fighting for our lives to do decent in the tournament, So, yeah.
Jake, there's some nice little NFL bit news here. We're going to keep it going with the free agency updates.
Okay.
Bills just restructured Josh Allen and Von Miller's contract, creating $32 million in cap space. So they're planning something big.
Interesting, I guess. But
I mean, hey, the Dolphins cleared up cap space to get Jalen Ramsey. What could the Bills be up to?
I have a very scary suspicion they could be going after a running back like Derrick Henry.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Because who's their running back? It's Singletary from FAU, who I thought was always kind of okay. But you put a running back like Henry in there, it's kind of rough, yo.
No, you just give him the division by then.
No, because Ramsey gonna lock him up. Anyway, moving on. The MVP of the team for basketball.
I think
this is what I'm not going to start with. I'm going to let Kevin take the wheel here. Who would you say was the MVP?
I think we're all going to have the same answer. Maybe not. Maybe one of you guys goes out of the water and I don't expect. But I'm going Denver Jones. I mean, that guy, when you need clutch, that is Denver Jones. That guy was so clutch on all ends of the floor. Offense, defense. I mean, he was lobbing these passes up to Mohamed Sanogo towards the end of the game. That guy was clutch. And he was maybe the best player on he was the best player on the team. And I won't say Arturo Dean just because he made so many mental mistakes. And I hope he's not watching, but he was someone who I think the bright light got to him and he just started struggling a little bit towards the end. Now, I think he's the all-time FIU steals leader or something like that now. But I'm not. That's the only reason why I'm not giving it to him because he made a lot of mental mistakes towards the end of the year, and I think the bright lights got to him. And I'm giving it to Denver Jones because he was always a humble guy, goes out there, best player on the team. I believe he got to the point where he averaged 20 points a game. He made the all conference team. You got to give it to him. That guy was a stud, and I really do hope he stays with FIU and he doesn't go into the transfer portal. But if he does, he's going to go to a really good team and maybe get a nice NIL because that guy could be a number 1 or number 2 option on any team right now in college basketball.
Yeah, it's tough, but I think I also have to give it to Denver. And granted, Arturo, amazing year, especially for a freshman.
Phenomenal.
That's the craziest thing. A freshman put up numbers like that. A freshman led the team in both assists and steals. That's insane. But there was only one player on the Panthers to average more than 12 points a game, and it was Denver. He averages 20, leads the team, right? Whenever FIU had a great game, Denver Jones was always one of the best scorers. He was always one of the ones making the biggest plays, and he deserves the recognition that he got from Conference USA and from us because I'll agree with you there. I think you have to give the MVP to Mr. Jones.
Yeah, I mean Denver Jones. I mean just send it because I mean best scorer on the team. Just pray he stays. Pray he stays. Like that's it.
Yeah.
You guys didn't ask me my thoughts on the transfer portal, by the way.
Oh,
come
on, Kevin. What are you doing? All right, I'm just kidding.
No, and I don't like the transfer portal. I really don't.
It's easy to not like it. It's just as easy to not like it as it is easy to like it.
It's like the one thing that I really don't like about it, and I'm speaking as a fan here, is like the turnover. It's like every year or two, you got to relearn your entire team's roster. How many Division I teams do we have here at FIU? Like 17? Like it's exhausting as a fan. You have to be like what is that, like 300 student athletes? And
Something
then like,
like that.
another like 75 names you got to learn every year. You
Mm.
got to be like seriously devoted to like memorize all that. But I mean, further than that, like you get attached to players. You get attached to people like Denver Jones, and honestly, for me, like Tyrese Chambers, and then they're just not there anymore, And then like you got to watch them like post, oh, I got an offer from FAU. Oh, check out my offer from Western Kentucky.
I don't
Check
think
out my
FAU
offer
offered him, actually. Did they offer him? Did FAU offer him?
No, I don't know.
I know you're making it an example, but I'm like now genuinely curious.
I think they actually did.
Almost every Conference USA team offered Tyrese Chambers a scholarship. I know
The one that really stuck out to me was Western Kentucky. Like after they dropped 73 on him, and they said, "All right, you want to join the dark side?" That stuck out to me quite a bit.
No, yeah, it's to me. It kind of like it's maybe I'm like childish in this, but to me it's like hurtful to see like the players who you got attached to like post offers like from your rivals and say how they're blessed to receive an offer from FAU, and it sucks to me and okay, like I'm a very big fan of players living out their dream. For Tyrese Chambers like returning home to Maryland, that's cool, but like for me, just like as a transfer, like as just a fan of the team, the transfer portal makes like following FIU football, FIU basketball like so hard. Like, and like the NFL, in the NFL, where players like literally like sign deals for money and there's free agency, there's a lot less turnover than there is in FIU football. I just wish we could follow these same kids and watch them like progress in their lives. And sure, I know they have to make business decisions and do what's best for them and their families, but guys, I'm just an old timer giving an angry rant about the good old days. I don't know. I don't want to see the Denver Jones leave. I don't want to see Tyrese Chambers leave. I'm a hurt fan. It sucks.
Yeah.
I do agree. I do agree with that take, David. But unfortunately, it's not going anywhere. The transfer portal is not going anywhere. It's something we're all just going to have to get used to. Make it a part of every offseason. Be like, all right, what plays is this team going to make?
Basically, like another free agency when you think of it.
Yeah.
It's like free agency, but every year. Basically. Yeah.
So I think now, just to wrap it up, let's go into baseball. Wow. FIU baseball has been pretty damn good this year.
Yeah.
I mean,
very strange team.
Very strange, but now let's keep in mind, they beat Harvard, so they sweep the 4-game set against Harvard. They win that 1 game against Stetson, and now they sweep Marist College. That is a 9-game winning streak. FIU now enters Wednesday with a phenomenal record. I don't have it in front of me, Jake, if you want to look for it.
It is 11-6, and they are on an 8-game winning streak.
8 games? Okay, 8-game winning streak. They're entering probably now their toughest game, their first real big challenge of the season, which is UM. I mean, you think of UM, you think of top dogs, some of the top dogs in their conference.
Yeah. When I think of UM, I think of the fact that we haven't beaten UM in 5 years.
Last time FIU beat UM, David was still a student. So
you remember that? You remember that, David?
And look how long that was ago. My gosh, I had a lot more hair back then, guys.
All of those days when FIU was the top dog at baseball.
Yeah, I've heard the stories, but FIU's last win against the University of Miami in baseball was on April 25th, 2018, in Mark Light Field. How about that?
Yeah.
So, I'll say one thing about the baseball team. Offensively, they might be one of the best offensive teams in the conference, bar none. That series against Marist, they averaged double-digit runs every single damn game. That's crazy.
But Marist
pitching wise, it's a little weird, right? It's strange. And you could have the feeling that, oh, it doesn't matter how sus the pitching is if the offense bails us out. It's not always going to do that, right? Especially when you go up against a good pitcher. And a team like Miami has a damn good pitching core, good enough to knock out ranked teams such as NC State. Okay, so I'm a little bit, that worries me. The offense does not worry me. The pitching worries me for that game on Wednesday.
Yeah, I'm kind of holding my breath. I'm nervous.
Yeah,
because
You got to be.
baseball looks as good as it has in the last, at least 3 or 4 years, and going into an extremely meaningful game. UM is good this year, but they're vulnerable.
Yep.
They're coming off a loss, and we're going to be super fired up to play them. I mean, guys, you've been to one of these games, right? When the school from Coral Gables comes to town, it's like a football game. People tailgate, it's.
And oh, by the way, they bring their fans. We
got to get there early, Jake.
Oh, of course. I'm gonna get there early. You are too, by the way. And
I am.
We're gonna go to 8th Street, aka Fresh. We all call it Fresh, right, David? It's Fresh.
You still call it Fresh? Oh, fantastic.
Well, I think you should, right? I mean, maybe that's just some OG lingo, but you got to call it Fresh, dog. Come on.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely Fresh back in my day, and no, 8th Street is probably a better name, but Fresh is just, it rolls off the tongue.
Yeah,
it's Fresh.
So Miami is 10-6. They're on a 1-game losing streak to NC State. They still won the series. They're 2-1 in the conference. However, on the road, they're 1-3. Right? They won a game against Florida, lost 2 games to Florida, as well as a game to FAU. David, you said it. They're vulnerable. I think this might be FIU's best opportunity since 2018 to beat the University of Miami. This is going to be their best chance.
Yeah, it definitely should be. Although I'm just going to say about baseball, I'm happy but cautious. I'm cautiously happy about FIU baseball because, yeah, we're on a very big winning streak. Okay, I mean, Paws up. I mean, I'm the first guy to put Paws up in the line, but who have we beaten? I mean, we beat I'm sorry, but a not very good baseball team in we just had our streak at Marist College.
Marist, yeah.
Marist.
And those were close games.
Harvard, Ivy League.
And
right?
Yeah, and it's not like we beat Harvard in like nanotechnology research. We beat them in baseball. It's a little easier. So I'm a little nervous. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I would be so happy though if they just show up, slam them, and bats go off, and and this kind of kicks off a new era of FIU baseball.
Now, let me see, because I do have word on the starter for FIU. Let me see. This is per source.
While Kevin is doing this, David, what are some baseball games on your schedule that you want to head to?
Yeah, so I definitely want to go to a FAU game, especially because their baseball team tends to be pretty legit. We got some. I mean, UM comes to town again. I think we play them 3 more times this year.
Yeah.
So if not Wednesday, then another game. And I think I'm liking a little FGCU action.
Mm-hmm.
I like FGCU. It's right across the state. They're a good opponent, so that's what I'm thinking.
So, per source, Jackson Ritchie will be FIU's starter for the UM game. I would have liked to see Carbarkis, who's been their best guy, but we'll go with Jackson Ritchie. That's fine.
Okay.
And I think we can do a little score prediction and wrap up, Jake.
All right. Score prediction on for Wednesday. Let's go. All right. You heard it here first. It's going to be high scoring. I think it's actually going to be high scoring, right?
Don't go over 20 runs.
They're going to get their runs. I'll say, you know what? Because I want to be optimistic for baseball, as well as Rich Witten, who so far, I mean, I feel like he's been a pretty pretty great coach so far. I mean, obviously the pitching can use a revive, but batting has been a big problem for FIU for years, and the numbers don't lie. They've been great. Give me 9-7 Panthers. 9-7.
Go ahead, David. I'll go last.
All right. Rich Wooden, this is going to get his career absolutely rolling at FIU. We're going to see an era of dominance like never before, and one of the greatest baseball games we've ever seen. FIU 18, the University of Miami and Coral Gables 17.
Whoa, that would be a pretty fun game. I'll tell you that.
That is a legend. That would be a legendary score, dude. Holy hell. Okay.
I'm gonna go.
Kevin, I know you got to be cooking up something there. What's your
I think
score?
FIU takes the dub, man. I mean, you look at FIU's offense, it's been lighting it up, especially thanks to the transfer portal. I know David may not be happy to hear that word, but transfer portal has definitely helped out FIU baseball. I mean, you got two studs from the University of Miami. You got a JUCO guy, Ryan Guida. I mean, you feel really good about what you got there. And, I mean, they've been killing it. The pitching, I wish you went with Kabarkis here. He's been their best guy, but it's fine. I think FIU wins, and I think I'm going to get the lowest score out of all of you guys here, but I think pitching is going to step up on both ends, and I think it'll be 5-3 FIU takes the dub.
Okay. Modest, but and look,
I like David's prediction, though.
Any
Best
kind
one
of
by
win
far.
against the Canes, I will take, right?
And circle a 0 in the middle of that. That's 305, Kevin. So I think you're onto something there.
Oh.
You're right. 3 homers, maybe?
That'd be dope. All righty, David. We've hit. We've just about hit the 90-minute mark. Would you look at that? 2 straight episodes now.
We called it too.
No. That's pretty dope. David, we can't thank you enough for hanging out with us tonight, talking some FIU athletics, and we'll look forward to seeing you on Wednesday at the game.
Awesome. Jake, Kevin, thanks for having me on. Keep it up. I love me some Paws Up podcast. You guys have great guests. And keep on getting FIU fans content, man. There's not that much out there. So I mean, we're sick. We'll go wherever it takes to find it. And you guys have a premiere show here. I mean, it's like a luxury. So
yeah.
keep it up.
And again, that's a great segue into me thanking our viewers who are listening on either our Paws Up Podcast Twitter account or the Lemon City Live Facebook and YouTube channels. Again, can't thank you guys enough. We have some great stuff cooking as the baseball season continues. And if any of you watching are going to be at that game on Wednesday, be sure to stop and say, hey, we'll be there. Any final thoughts, Kevin?
No, just make sure to say what's up to us if you see us.
Yeah,
David's
and get
gonna
a
be there.
Sunblazer Golden Ale.
I can't have it, so have it for me.
Well,
Billy Gill will be there
can,
for the first
can
pitch.
looks dope. Keep the can.
The can looks dope. I will keep the can if I can, but
maybe
I'll do this. Maybe I'll buy a
speak...
Sunblazer. I'll buy a Sunblazer, and once I turn 21, that's when I'll drink that same Sunblazer.
How far away are we from that, Kevin?
Very far. Like 3 years.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yeah.
So again, thank you so much, David, for joining. And I speak for Kevin and myself when I say so long and pause up.